So I'm at some important parts of the Viking box here. I'm getting ready for the glue up, and what I want to do now is I've taken one of the front of my Viking box and I've ran it through the table saw to create my drawer front. Do not throw this away. We need to keep this later on so that the grain will match as we have the drawer front. Okay. At this point in time, I think it's also important to make sure that all writing is off of the top portion of the Viking box. This is where the top is, the lid will be here, and it's important to make sure, so that's the thicker portion, make sure that there's no writing or anything like that. So this piece right here, I would typically take that to the sander and I would sand that discoloration off, because this is stain from something else. This is not part of the natural look of the wood. Otherwise, I have to sand it later, which is very difficult to do. Okay, now that we've got it's so that the sides are sticking out, we know that, again, like I said before, that our front and back are going to stick out further than our sides, rather than having this. We want that. If I have it so that this is flush or sticking out here, I would take it back over to the rabbit saw, dado saw, and make that protrusion, that rabbit, a little bit wider so that this sticks out, protrudes a little bit further out. So now that I've got that, I want to dry fit my box, make sure that it fits, that it all fits together well. I've also done the measurements that I need to do at this point to cut out the floor bottom. I'm going to stick it so that the drawer is up higher. So this is where the lid would be, is on the bottom. And it just makes it easier to manipulate. And this is kind of a difficult part. So I want to put this together. Like so. And make sure that I have nice tight seams, nice tight joints. If my floor is too big, then I won't be able to get nice tight joints. This won't fit in here very well. If this floor is too long, then this won't fit in there well. Okay, right now I can fit these in there nice and snug, and when your floor is a little bit small, it makes it harder for the glue up. Okay, so I've got nice tight joints, except what I have here, let's see, is on here you can see this corner is just a little bit off. I've got some room here in my rabbit. I'll move it this way so that the camera can see. Down here in this corner, I had a situation where it was like that. Okay, I had a gap here. Oops. I had a gap here where my rabbit was not flush. Rather than having it sit like this, it was sticking out a little bit. That means my drawer, my floor was too long. So I need to take that back to the chop saw and trim it down. So now I've got everything fit so that it fits nice and tight. I've got nice tight joint here, nice tight joint there, and the other two as well. So now I'm ready for the glue up. Okay, what you're looking at now is the glue table and the box being ready to get glued up. This is where my drawer front will sit. I don't want to put any glue on the rabbits that go there. Just remember that the rabbits go like this, and in this situation I've got my name is sticking up where I wrote my name, so that'll be on all four sides. I don't want to put any glue on this part right here, because I don't want to glue my drawer face in. So instead I'm going to put glue all over the back rabbit where there is not the drawer. And don't put too much glue in, because you don't want it to squeeze through. So if you do put too much on, just take your finger and then use it on the other part right there. Again, I'm not putting any glue there because that's where the drawer will sit. Now this is a difficult part, because it's very often that these will fall on you as you're trying to put them together. So I expect that will happen here. I've already done my dry fitting, so I know that it all fits together. And now I'm ready for the clamping portion. I've got glue on everything. I've got glue over here for sake of time, so you didn't have to watch me put glue over here. I went ahead and did that with the camera off. Now, so I've got glue everywhere that I want it. There's no glue here. So glue on the rabbet below here, glue on the rabbet below here, glue on the rabbet throughout here, glue on the rabbet throughout here. That's it. Now I'm going to clamp these together. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of pressure, but what I want to do is feel down here and feel down here as I'm clamping, making sure that this is flush here as well as flush on the bottom. Flush meaning this all planes out at the same. If you don't, then you'll run into a little bit of issues. Notice that as I did that, the box tilted. So as I want to do this, one thing that I want to keep an eye on is I want a square box. So I have a square that I took out of the Woods 1 cabinet that I want to put in here and make sure, look, I'm flush against here, but I'm not there. So I need to adjust this. So I'm going to loosen the clamp just a touch, and I'm going to adjust my box so that it makes sure that it gets a square fit. Okay. Oftentimes you can manipulate the clamps to do what you want it to do. Notice I've got a piece of wood here and a piece of wood here. Those are kind of buffer blocks so that I don't dent my wood as I clamp this together. Now, as I move this box around to try and get it square, these slid a little bit on me, so I'm going to get those back flush where I want them on this side as well. The other thing I'm going to be feeling for is make sure that I've got that protrusion that we talked about here. And if not, then I'm going to squeeze them together a little bit as I do my clamping. Okay. Now, I'm going to put my drawer face in there. Remember, there's no glue in there. I just want it to be a spacer so that I can keep a square cabinet. I've got two other clamps that I use now that I'm going to put on the box so that we get some more clamping pressure evenly distributed. And I'm going to put that, I'm actually going to put that up here. As I do this, I'm making sure that everything stays square. So I'll check that again. Some tips to help you when you're clamping this is grab a friend to help you because it does get a little bit difficult. Make sure that your clamps are right over the wall. That's where you want the pressure. Don't put it in the middle. It'll bow and even crack the wood. So you want to make sure that it's over the wall so you have even pressure there. Okay. I've got it all clamped up, but I'm going to double check, make sure that I have a square box. And that's as square as square is. So I've got a nice square box now. Okay. Some tips on the clamping. If you don't have it sticking out, then you don't have a nice tight joint in here. I've got a nice tight joint in here, tight joint here. If I lift this up, let's see if I can roll it over and show you. Double check. I like to roll it over and double check. Have a partner on the other end of this that's helping you turn it over. I don't really have a very good joint right here, so I'm going to loosen this clamp up a bit, squeeze it together, and then reclamp it. Nice and flush there. And I'm going to again double check for square. And that's square. Very good. So that's the clamp up. The other thing that I want to mention is when I put this, I'm going to put this in my cubby next to my cubby on the ground. And I'm going to put it with this heavy portion on the ground and the taller portions of the clamps sticking up. I'm going to put it close to my cubby so that when I take, so that the next class is going to need these clamps in a couple class periods, and I will take these clamps off and I will see your name that you wrote on the bottom of the box, and then I'll know where your cubby is. It's right by it. I can put your box in your cubby for you, and the next class is off using these clamps again. So make sure that it's square, make sure that it's flush on the corners around, top and bottom, all the way around. Make sure you have it a little protrusion sticking out here. Make sure that the rabbets are tight in there. Make sure your drawer isn't too big by doing a dry fit prior to the clamping. And that's it.